Do you remember in the Super Bowl a few years ago when the power went out?
Yeah, the Niners, Ravens in the Superdome.
That's right, yeah. Remember how they actually finished the game that night?
Right.
They really like worked their ass off to get the power back on, and everything was fine.
Yeah.
That happened during a Stanley Cup Finals game.
Okay.
And the NHL didn't do that. They just wiped the game out altogether.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you need those to decide
Usually that's the case.
winner.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
It's May 24th, 1988. It's Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals. The Edmonton Oilers are playing the Boston Bruins in the Boston Garden.
Okay. So this is Gretzky's Oilers after like 3 straight cups, I think?
Exactly. Okay. 3 out of the last 4.
Okay.
The Oilers are up 3-0 on the series, so they have a chance to sweep here tonight in Boston.
Gotcha.
But Boston, playing in the Garden, they have home ice advantage. So they've got a little momentum going, and they are looking to stop the sweep.
Yeah.
The game is already off to a weird start because it is 80 degrees in the Boston Garden for some reason. I guess they just didn't kick on the air conditioner in late May. Yes, inside, where all the ice is.
Well, God made that ice good, so like they don't need to keep freezing it.
It's hard, right? Once you freeze it, you can just leave it.
What's it gonna do? Turn into something else?
The Bruins come from a 2-goal deficit to bring it to 3-2.
Okay.
Then the Oilers score, and they tie it at 3.
Okay.
And then immediately after that happens, the power goes out.
Okay.
The broadcast cuts, the lights go out, and the game is brought to a final and complete grinding halt.
Okay.
The NHL does have bylaws in place
that
are separate from the actual rule book. And they had a bylaw in place for this particular scenario, in that if there's any sort of act of God or weird thing that brings a game to a halt, you basically just scrap the game. You replay it at the end of the series if you need it, but if you don't need it, then the game just doesn't exist. Does that make sense?
I understand the words you said.
Okay, sure, yeah.
But so they're going to take a 3-3 game,
right,
and then tack it on to the end if they need it.
Yes, but it's no longer a 3-3 game. They just throw everything that's happened away, and you start from scratch with a new game if you need it at the end of the series. Yes, this reaction is correct.
It's like the NHL is saying, like, it's not our bad, but it's somebody's bad. So, clean slate.
So there's a LA Times article from the next day where the NHL officials are basically saying exactly that. They're like, look, we're sorry that it happened this way, but the bylaws are in place for a reason so that we don't have to make this up as we go. And it says we just scrap the game. And the Bruins are like, well, that's the bylaws. I guess we gotta. So what happens is, this is Game 4. They go to Game 5, which is back in Edmonton. And the plan is to play games 5, 6, and 7 if they need them.
Right.
And then if they get to the end and the series is tied at 3-3, then they'll go back and play Game 4.
So it's literally like looking at a 7-game series, pulling one out entirely, keep the numbers and locations the same.
Exactly.
So in the first 4 games played, Edmonton had 3 home games.
Exactly. Which means the Bruins only had 1. You had the first 2 games in Canada. You had the 3rd game in Boston. You had the 4th game, which should have been finished in Boston, but that gets scrapped, right? So then they just move on to Game 5, where the Oilers win and they sweep the series in 4, technically 5 games.
They won.
They sweep the series 4-0 in 4.5 games.
The flip side of that is, say this series needs a 7th game.
Yeah.
Then the Bruins have an advantage there by having the deciding game on their home ice. Then, if they need Game 4 as the 7th game.
Right.
Sorry.
Which would technically be the 8th game. Right? It would technically be an 8th event that counts as Game 4 and is the 7th game that they've played. If it gets there, which, again, they don't, because the Oilers sweep them. But one nice thing about it is all of the individual statistics for the players stand. So, like, Glenn Anderson has
Good for them.
Good for them, right?
It's like
Thank God. At
it's
least
like a party favor as you leave a
it's kind of a
funeral.
weird, like, crappy side gift. Glenn Anderson, who was playing for the Oilers, scores the first goal of what would have been Game 4 in 10 seconds.
Oh, wow.
And that's a record for the fastest goal scored in a Stanley Cup Finals game. So he got to keep that record, even though the game is...
A record stands in a game that doesn't exist.
A record stands in a game that doesn't technically exist.
That's
it's listed
awesome.
as Game 4 suspended, and then Game 5 is the next game. And I don't know if that were to happen today.
Right.
I have no idea if they've changed it. You would like to think that previous events would enlighten them in some degree.
Or like what they would have done if it was like 4-2 Bruins.
Right.
Like that's what I'm really curious about is like...
In a way, it's almost lucky they were tied when the lights went off.
So the NHL didn't have to answer more questions.
Right.
Everyone could just say like, well, 3-3.
Well,
That's
3-3, let's just start a new one.
Totally the same as 0-0.
Right. When you go back and you look at the Super Bowl, and you go, oh my God, they got the lights back on in 15 minutes and they finished the game.
This show has become somewhat of a platform to dunk on the NFL.
Sure.
So we can celebrate them this one time.
They have done that one thing correctly, yes.
They were part of a game where the power came back on.
Good job, NFL. One for the NFL.
Bully for you.
Bully for you.
Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to SB Nation. Check out another episode of Weird Rules that's about one particular NHL coach who is single-handedly responsible for a bunch of rule changes, or another one of our episodes of something else over here.